Welcome to the Unqualified podcast, where we believe God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. This is a space for real, unfiltered conversations about faith, healing, and growth, because the journey with God was never meant to be perfect, just honest. I'm your host, Paige Loehr, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Unqualified podcast. I am Paige Loehr.
I am Danielle Welch.
And we have Cole Zesiger on with us today, and he is a breakup coach. So this is my first time talking to a breakup coach, Danielle.
Yeah, I've never talked to a breakup
Lucky
coach.
you.
I mean, like,
That's awesome.
old friends would pretend to be breakup coaches for me. Not always the best advice. So this is officially my first time.
And it's like, I don't know, for me, it's like a new lane that I'm hearing about, but I think it's
Yeah.
awesome. So yeah, we're excited to chat with you and just hear from your perspective. We are kind of like we've been out of the game for a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
I have been married for 16 years now.
Cool.
So off the dating market for 17. Danielle, you've been off the market for
15.
15 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
You
we
guys
are
missed out on dating app time. So very
Almost
good.
16.
And
Yeah.
we're going to talk about that. Okay. So, yeah, we missed out on that, or at least I for sure did. Danielle, did you get on it? Did you try
No,
out?
man, I met my husband at a bar. I met him the old-fashioned way, just stranger at a bar
It's
on the
like
dance floor.
2012-ish, 2010, 2012, they started getting huge. Like they just
Okay.
started, then like 2015 to 2020, they got ginormous. And now it's like the
Right.
only way people date.
Because before, okay, so there's dating app era, but before that was like, what was that?
Match.com.
Yeah.
Match.com. But it
eHarmony.
was still like
eHarmony.
weird and eHarmony. Yeah. Wow, that's a throwback. People probably still use that today, but I know a couple that's been married for like almost over a decade that met on eHarmony. So anyways, but you have a story. So this is kind of like a test versus testimony or test into testimony, like career path for you. Like you had
Yeah.
this huge like life moment that that life interruption, you get to a crossroads, and then that springboarded you into what you're doing today. So I just want you to kind of like let us know. I've heard pieces of your story, and but yeah, from your perspective, you can get into as much as you want, or kind of overview. Then I
Yeah.
have some follow-up questions, but like, okay, how did you get here? How did this start? Like, tell us your story.
I'd love to. So I got married the first time in 2018.
Okay.
And I was just back from a religious mission. So I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I went on a 2-year mission teaching people about Christ in the Philippines. I lived there. Before that, I didn't date that much. I kind of thought girls didn't really like me. When I look back now, there were a lot of times I could have had a girlfriend, but just like chickened out. But I learned how to be more confident when I was there because I just had to talk to people all day long for 2 years. I get back, and then it's kind of the culture where I live in Utah that you just get married at that point. So my friends were all talking about getting married. Dating apps had just started to really catch fire. Like I left in 2015, I got back in 2017, and every one of my friends was on dating apps. Like they had Tinder, there was one in Utah called Mutual, and I just got on there and started swiping like crazy. And I went on a good amount of dates. I'm usually pretty hyper focused, kind of ADHD focused. So I swiped and dated everybody in my area about that was on those apps, which is less than is on there now. I don't think that's possible now, but I ended up expanding my like radius to like all of the US, and I matched with a girl from Texas, and then we ended up talking on FaceTime all the time. I ended up going to college in Idaho, and we both went there, and we got married really quickly after one semester of college together. So we talked on FaceTime for like a month. We dated during one semester, and then we were married. So from the day I matched with her, it was March 4th. We got married on August 4th. So 5 months of knowing each other existed, married super quick. And after that, I just kind of felt awesome. I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I was really doing good. I was married. I one of the first of my friends to get married, but the marriage was really hard. There were a lot of skills we didn't really have, and a lot of things we didn't really agree on. So we didn't agree on where we were going to live. She was from Texas, I was from Utah, and we'd argue a ton. We it got sometimes we'd just be screaming at each other, and there were a lot of problems. So one day, 2.5 years into that marriage, she came home and said that she wanted a divorce. And to me, at that time, I didn't even think that divorce was a possibility on the horizon. I had like random friends' parents had been divorced when I grew up, but I was one of the first of my friends married, so I didn't have any peers that were divorced. Nobody in my family was divorced. And I was kind of judgmental towards people who got divorced growing up. I just thought that they were quitters or they sucked at relationships or something, which I suddenly became one of those people. And
Yeah.
it like shattered my world because it was about she said she wanted a divorce and it was extremely quick. After I begged for about 3 days and then I moved out to give her some space. I moved back to my parents, which is about 3 hours south in Utah. And her mom moved in from Texas. They boxed up all my stuff, changed the locks, changed her phone number, and I never saw her again. And it was really, really hard. So to deal with that, because again, my entire world was just shattered, I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna get another girlfriend. I'm gonna get married again. I'm gonna pretend like this never happened, which is an extremely unhealthy thing to do, but that was my plan. I was
Yeah.
23 and
Wow.
I got on dating apps again 3 days after we separated, started swiping. I did wait a little bit. I was going to therapy that like I didn't just message all of them yet. I didn't wait very long, but I waited about 3 weeks. Then I went on the first date I went on became my girlfriend. So I had a girlfriend again about 3 weeks after the separation. And then we dated for about 10 months. And it was really good at the beginning. Like I felt like all the pain was gone. I was back on track. I was gonna pretend like I was never gonna face that thing that I felt like a major failure at life. And I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna get married again. Everything's fine. Go to medical school still. That was what I was pursuing at the time. And just get another dog, have kids, delete this area from my life. But then we started talking about the future and marriage and things around like 10 months, 8 months. And as soon as we started having those conversations, I immediately became extremely anxious and shut down. Like I started finding tons of flaws in her. I'd see other couples that were happy and think they look so much happier than me. What the heck am I doing? I'm making the wrong choices. It was to the point it was like debilitating. I couldn't sleep anymore. I couldn't get a shower because if I wasn't distracting myself with a podcast or my phone or work, then I was just obsessing about this on how I was going to mess everything up and get divorced again to the point that she broke up with me too. So that brings us to early 2022. I think I'm 24 and I've been divorced. I have been broken up with. I didn't have any friends because I moved right after the divorce and after that just focused on my girlfriend. I got rejected from a bunch of medical schools, which is a different story. That was really hard. I felt completely abandoned by God because I thought like I really prayed about this marriage. This is what I felt like I was supposed to do. And then all of a sudden I'm here now. And I just was I felt really stuck. So again, I didn't immediately turn to like, let's improve my life. The first thing I turned to was I need to get my ex-girlfriend back. So again, kind of like papering over the problem. I got super, super into all the YouTube videos about like do this to get her back, send this text and it'll guarantee it. Do this and it'll make her think that you're the best option she's ever gonna have. And one video I did watch though, that the best option one kind of accidentally got me to make changes that really worked. So I watched one video and it said, become her best option. And I was like, okay, cool. That's what I need to do. I'll get her back and everything will be fine. And I can pretend there's no problems again. And what I did was I actually really did things to become her best option. And it kind of accidentally made me really like my life and make real progress. So I moved about an hour south. I made tons of friends. I said yes to every opportunity. I went on 11 vacations that year with people that I had met. I started making TikTok videos about what I was learning. I started therapy. I read every book I could find. I dove really into attachment styles, communication. So by the time it was about 5 months after the breakup, I saw on Visco, it's like a social media thing that she had a new boyfriend, but I wasn't even sad. Like I was okay because I
Yeah.
accidentally built a life that I really loved in the pursuit to get her back.
Yeah.
So by that point, I was growing on TikTok and I had like 30,000 followers. I had 100,000 at 6 months, so maybe I was like 50 or 60. But my wife Jocelyn, who I'm married to now, she ended up watching those videos because she was going through a divorce, so she watched them for like months, and then she messaged me, and that's how we met. So that's the best thing to come out of it.
Yeah.
But since then, like how it turned more into a business is it just, um, I just really, I still really care about the people that are going through that. I know what it feels like to be like, I need this ex back, even though all my friends are telling me that I'm delusional and stupid. I really can empathize with those people and know how they're feeling like. So my mission now is I want to teach people the tools that I learned during that time so they can avoid making those mistakes and be easy on themselves and learn the right path to get over it and have a happy relationship, whether it is getting back together or whether it's finding someone new. um, that's my mission now.
Yeah, I love it. It's just that organic like life journey. And so many people I talk to, whether it's mentoring in business or like being a spiritual coach, now a pastor, like it's just so funny that people want to control all the pieces, but the best lives that you build are the almost accidental ones. It's like when you like release the control and you kind of just let life happen, build in the things that you want. It's just like that organic life that comes to be. It's like, a couple months ago getting a church handed to us. Like we didn't ask for that. We never prayed for it. Never something I wanted, never something I thought I would have. But it's just a part of that. You're doing the things that make you happy. You're doing the things that feel authentic to you. And then these things just happen. It's almost like God
Yeah.
has a plan. Crazy.
Really? He's got a
Right.
plan.
He's got a plan. Okay, so I do have one question.
Cool.
In this process of divorce, separation, obviously you weren't like stuck in the mud for too long. You kind of went right into another relationship, which, I don't know if anybody had any commentary on that for you that was close. But like what are some of the like what is the support that you had during this separation, divorce, and just like this icky time? What is the support that you wish you had?
Okay. So my parents were awesome. Super awesome. My mom would go on walks with me and we would just talk about how I thought the whole world was ending and how I'd never be happy again and I'd never find love again, and she would just listen to me. And that is the biggest thing if you have someone that's going through a divorce or a breakup
Mhm.
is they're going to need to repeat the same stuff at nauseum over and over and over. And it's not gonna, to you, if you're not in the pain, it's gonna feel extremely illogical because you're like, you've done this. Like, why are we doing this thing again? Like, we know the answer here. Why are you talking about it again? Why are we going in circles?
Mhm.
But your brain really needs the chance to almost like reground itself and realize what reality is and accept that this is happening, and that takes repetition. So my
Mhm.
parents were really good at that. Um, I I ended up building friendship after, and that was something again I accidentally did. But as many new things as you can build into your life as possible is one of the things I've seen to help people recover the quickest. Because
Mhm.
one thing, like the way I like to think about it logically is you have a life before, and your life can be made up. Like if you really divide it up into categories, family, friends, religion, hobbies, work, health, relationship. Like that's a life. And if that's like a 9, 8 out of 10, and then you just subtract the relationship part and you just try to live the same life, but now you're missing that, it's worse. And that's not what actually happens. Usually the rest of those things suffer too. So you isolate from your family and friends, you stop working as hard, you don't do hobbies anymore because it feels meaningless. You feel like God abandoned you, so you don't pray anymore. So you're like a 8 overall life to a 2, and then you expect your brain to want to move on and let go of it, but you're making it like an impossible task for your brain to want to do that. So if you want to move on quickest, there needs to be a shinier object to focus on in the present or the
Mhm.
future than the past. So that's one thing that really worked for me was I kind of, yeah, I accidentally did that. Is I ended up building a whole new life, introduced a lot of new things in that as a whole, even though I didn't have that romantic piece, that was still a 0 out of 10. All the rest became so great that as a whole, it was a shinier object to focus on now. So the past didn't take up so much of my attention.
I love that.
Yeah, so I think I hear what I hear you're saying is like you did have like I think you said your mom was like a
Yeah.
person that was like a support system, which was helpful. But maybe what I'm hearing is for somebody that doesn't have a support system, right? Or they tend to self-isolate,
Yeah.
in these harder times, like the encouragement then from you would be find this next shiny object, and kind of like redirect where your focus is going. Because it is difficult. I'm walking through with a friend right now, a breakup with the same person that they broke up a few months ago. They got back together for a little bit, and then he just ended things again. And she's self-isolating and doesn't have much of a support system outside of very busy mom friends, that we can't be there always with her physically, So I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes in that sense. But I think that's what I'm hearing, or maybe even you can elaborate on that. Like, what if somebody doesn't
Yeah.
have that support system? Maybe dive a little bit deeper
No,
into
that's a
that.
great question. So for you, like as the person that supports them, it's definitely going to be being at their level and listening, and not as much even advice. Because honestly, people who aren't in it kind of are terrible at giving breakup advice in general. And I think there's a weird amnesia that comes that I've kind of avoided because I talk to people going through breakups every day. But we don't remember how hard it is. We forget about it, which is good. You don't want to remember because it's extremely painful. It's great that we forget about it, but it makes us bad at helping others. So it's best if, because usually what we're tempted to say is there's tons of fish in the sea. You're gonna get over it. Like just go on dates, put yourself out there. But that person's like probably in your friend's case, like still in love. But now
Yeah.
it's like a moral wrong for them to be in love. And we tend to support that moral wrong and be like, yeah, they were terrible. Screw him. Like that was, look at all these ways that he's terrible. But if she's still in that headspace that she's in love with him, then it feels like you're just insulting your partner.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more listening than it is advice.
Yeah.
For the person who's in it and doesn't have a support system. For me, it was I had my mom and my dad were awesome. And my siblings were awesome too. My brother-in-law was extremely awesome. But I had to build the friend thing. And at the beginning, it was I just I started a new job. I was selling decks, so I had something to do. So give yourself something to do. You can give yourself something to take care of, like a dog or a plant. So you have some sort of purpose. And then after that, it can be just like online things. Those breakup videos I would watch, a lot of it was more toxic advice, like do this and it'll guarantee. But it felt like a friend. I would watch them and I'd really literally watch like 5 hours a day of these YouTube guys. And I knew all of the things they were gonna say, but it was just kind of comforting to hear their voice, someone that cared and would be there even if they weren't even real. So it can be stepping stones like that, but eventually once you're strong enough, it is putting yourself out there and doing things out of your comfort zone. I moved somewhere that I had met one person in the city before. I met him at a party one time in Idaho, but other than that, I knew no one. And I moved there, and then I went to every single party and function I could think of, and just learned how to swim while I was drowning.
I love that. You said it already, but this is like the question, like, what is the most annoying or hurtful thing said to you during this time? You said there's other fish in the sea, but like, what is the one thing like you remember and you were like, whether it's from one person or something repeated often?
Looking for silver linings. So
Okay. Okay.
specifically in the divorce, you hear, especially if you're a young person going through a divorce, because I was 23, you hear at least you didn't have kids with her. I heard
Yeah.
that probably 100 times. And I
Yeah.
agree with it. Like I'm glad I didn't, and I'm glad I don't. It makes life a lot easier now. But
Right.
again, like I just got left by my wife and I wish she would come back to me. And then you're saying, well, at least you didn't have kids with her.
Yeah.
Like she was terrible. And that's not good. That like there needs to be some level of let me listen first and see where the person's at, and then I can give my thoughts rather than have cookie cutter statements that are always said and just throw them up on the person.
Well,
Right.
yeah. I mean, if somebody would say that and you're still in love with them,
Yeah.
you're like your heart's going to want to defend the person that you love. So it's almost kind of making it worse that you're in the process yourself of trying to get over them. It's like
Yeah, it deepens your heels. You
it
dig your heels
deepens.
in more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But also just like, what if I wanted that with them?
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Like, thanks, but maybe that was like my dream. So yeah, it's really interesting. I'm the person that I don't have amnesia. Like I remember things all too well.
I
Um,
have amnesia.
yeah, my friend Danielle here doesn't remember much.
I don't remember my children's birthday party times.
Oh,
So,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, it's a problem.
yeah, but more than that, like, but that's a trauma thing. We're still working on
Yeah.
that.
So working on that. That's so true.
Right. I am like, I remember my breakup with my off and on, abusive relationship. And I remember listening to a song called No Air by Jordan Sparks and literally feeling like I couldn't breathe. Like I
Yeah.
remember it. And so like even with somebody that's close to me, I don't want to, identify her, but like she's younger and kind of going through her first big breakup and I'm like the person that's like, dude, I know it sucks. Like
Yeah.
I know it sucks and I know you're hurting so bad, but because of the proximity of relationship, I kind of go savage mode where I want to be like I want to tell her how to make it hurt, And so that's like I need I think I still need healing in that area where I'm
Tell
like,
her how to make it hurt, like punish the other person.
yes, I am so
Yeah.
bad when it comes to that. I'm like, I can give you 5 things to do in the next week that will get his attention, make him feel like the biggest idiot in the world. But I'm like trying to pull all of that energy back to just be like, I remember what it feels like to be in pain. But
Yeah.
that's like my go-to is like, let's make this hurt. So that's not
That's kind
helpful.
of like what Cole did when he was like, I'm going to go be the
Yeah.
person for
Yeah.
Yeah.
her. It's kind of like a little bit different.
That's better framework
Well, it's like I
The
think
glow
that's
up.
fine. I
Let
don't
me
think
glow
that's
up.
bad. It's short term. It's a
Yeah.
short term solution because that's also another way people get really stuck.
Yeah.
Because underneath that, like it sounds cool, but you're basically saying, I'm still determining my worth based on what the other person thinks about me.
Right.
Like I'm doing all these things so that they can feel bad that I'm awesome, but it's defined by what they think about you. And
Mm.
that's what a lot of people who don't get to the point where they forgive the past, even if it's terrible, which we could talk about that if you want. But that is usually where people get almost moved on. They get like
Yeah.
80% and then just coast there for the rest of their lives. And then it shows up usually as trust issues around future relationships that have
Yeah.
similar patterns that align.
Yeah.
Not being able to fully open up because you're still hurt from the past one.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a different thing, but
You said like we can touch in on that. So if you want to add that to this one question that I got from somebody, which I thought was
yeah.
awesome because I see people doing it all the time, is like, why do people hold on to potential? And when is that
Yeah.
okay versus when is it not okay?
I don't think it's okay ever. So why do people do it? I think a big one is I'm gonna go on a little tangent before this.
Okay.
So So I've thought a lot about what are the minimum things that make a relationship work. If we could get it down to the very bare bones, that's really understandable and like a formula, you have to have these. If you don't have them, then the relationship fails. What are they? And I've thought of three, and this is the best I can think of right now. Maybe I'll change it in the future, but this is what I got. I like to think of it if you're building a car, then the minimum for that would be like wheels, an engine, and gas. Like it would not be the best car. It wouldn't work very well, but you could like stand on it, it would go. So with this, it is number one, love and chemistry. So you have to feel like you are admire each other, you like being around each other in general. Number two, similar goals and values. So this is something I lacked with my ex-wife. Like we didn't want to live in the same place. So like where are you going to live? Do you both want to have kids? If religion's important to you, do you have the same religion? If politics is important to you, do you have the same politics? Like whatever is like a defining characteristic about you and the future you want, does it line up with the person? If you have love and not that, it breaks. Love does not overcome those things. Last one is being emotionally ready for a relationship. So we're not all emotionally ready to be in relationships in general. There's a lot of us that are either just not in that stage that we want to just meet a lot of people, or maybe we got really hurt in the past, so we're just we have some self-esteem things to work through. a lot of times people are ready for the beginning of a relationship. Like that's what situationships are a big term right now. If you're really good at like talking and dating, but then as soon as you become official, all of a sudden you're overcome by crippling anxiety. Another example is like me, like in the second relationship, I was ready for the relationship part, but not a marriage part because I didn't overcome that in myself yet. So that's the last part, being emotionally ready for a relationship. So when you say holding on to potential, usually what that looks like is people have the first two things and not the third one, where
Mm.
they love the person, they have amazing chemistry, they like being with them. They have the same future when they talk about it, they both want the same things, but then for some reason, every time it gets too serious, the other person pulls away and leaves. So they think, I'm so close. I just need to figure this one thing out. But the problem with thinking about potential like that is it's not at all in your circle of control
Right.
whatsoever. You can't do anything about it. So another analogy I like here is so my wife's name is Jocelyn. She makes cakes. She hasn't made them in a little bit. I don't eat cakes that much, so she probably stopped making them for that. But she had like this little chapter in her life that she got really good at making these like artesian cakes. They're super beautiful. She still makes them for weddings for people if they want, like our friends and stuff. But to make cakes, you need like baking soda, sugar, eggs, flour. Let's just say that. That's as many as I can think of. So if you each have like, if you imagine each partner's coming to the relationship and they've each got a couple of those, like I have flour and sugar and she has eggs and baking soda, I can escalate the quality of my sugar to like the best sugar in the world. But if she has like her eggs that she's bringing are rotten, the
Yeah.
cake is still going to be garbage. It's not going to work. It's not going to taste good. There's a minimum threshold of being ready to be in a relationship that you can't overcome by you growing.
Mm.
Mm.
So that's generally what I see with people holding on to potential. And the basic reason why is a lack of believing that there's a lot of other options out there and an over trust in your own ability to tell the future and believe that you know the happiest path your life can take. So like what you said
Right.
at the beginning of the podcast, I think the solution to that is faith in God, that you
Yeah.
believe that He has options for you and that maybe the happiest path for your life is something that you've never experienced yet in the 20, 30, 40 years you've lived.
Mm.
Yeah. So you say, so if somebody came to you today and said exactly what you said, they're going through a divorce, it's fresh, or even a separation breakup, it's fresh, and they say, I feel abandoned by God. Obviously, there's the empathizing, there's the hearing, there's the listening. But if they genuinely were like, what do you say to that now? What would you say?
Pray and be angry with God.
Mm. What?
So so I felt really angry because I believed in like God's omni what is omni knowledge? What's the word for that? Like
Um,
knowing all things, all knowingness. I think there's an
yeah,
omni
the
version of that.
omnipresence,
Sure.
omnipresence.
Let's use omnipresence. So I was like, you know everything. You know me, you know your daughter that I married. I
Right.
prayed about it. I got a clear answer. I felt like I heard like a voice that I should marry her.
Yeah.
And you couldn't see 2.5 years in the future for that we'd get divorced. Like, what the heck is this about? Like, that's
Mm.
why I was mad. I was like,
Yeah.
what the heck? And and it took a lot of like it did take at first I really distanced myself and then I prayed and like yelling and crying. And
Yeah.
I like that view of God, that we
Yeah.
have a God that wants to know all of us, not just the reverent type. He
Yeah.
wants a real relationship where we are like a child and can fully show up. And when I felt that, um, I kind of felt better. And then the second girl broke up with me because I was like, okay, good. Yeah, you give me a different girl. I'm good now. And then the second girl broke up with me, and I was like, what the heck? Again? And I remember praying, and I remember like feeling a really clear answer that it's not going to work this time. And I thought, you know what? I know you know the best path for my life, but I don't care. I want second place life. Let's just do my plan, and it's probably not as good as yours, but I'll trade it. Let's do my one. And it didn't happen. And I remember I saw some scriptures in the Book of Mormon that gave me like comfort, but the one I really remember is Romans 8:28
Mhm.
was like God will work all things to the good of those who love him.
Yeah.
I like that. that
Yeah.
my belief in it now, like the way I've come to terms with it is that God will give you things and he knows that some things will mess up, but as long as you're doing your best, then he can work with whatever ends up happening to turn it into the first place best life that can possibly be. You're not going to frustrate him because you mess up. It's not going to
Yeah.
be you weren't good enough and you messed up his plan. It's like, oh crap. Okay, I guess you get the second best version now. Good luck. I like to believe that he can work with what I give him as long as
Mhm.
I'm doing my best and trying
Yeah.
and make it into something that's better than I can imagine.
Yeah, I once heard one of what I thought was one of the coolest pieces of advice. Because there was somebody, a couple that was in town that I really respected, and I was having dinner with them with a group of people. And now I respected their marriage. They had a ton of issues in the beginning, but they had fought for it and they had a healthy marriage. And so one of the questions asked got her on this topic, basically like, how did you know he was your soulmate? And she said point blank, like, I don't think that he was. I think that honestly, God may have had an plan A for me, and based off of my rebellion, or because we all have free will, I chose plan B. But based off of His grace, He made it plan A, and that was just such an interesting perspective because these are people of faith. Like I had never heard any language like that, or even just being willing to admit, like I wasn't necessarily following the path that God had for me, but He took the path that I was on, and He still turned it around for my good. So I love that
Well,
scripture. That's one of my favorites, but that just reminded me of that story. And it was just an interesting way to like to see it, to view it as like, okay, you can go down this path and he can still turn it around for your good, or there is like maybe potentially an A path and you do follow it. But I also want to pause and slow down and just say to everybody listening that I love the point of being angry with God. It is absolutely so vital. And I don't even know if I've mentioned it in any of my previous podcasts. I'm sure there'll be a whole episode on it, but people get to this like pious place where they're like they're trying to be holy, they're trying to be righteous, but they also have that like fear of God mindset where it's like warped, and they think like you cannot cross certain lines. But like being angry at God, I think it's pivotal to a healthy relationship. Like, and
yeah.
you know, people tell you that even in, people relationships. Like, if you've never gone through an argument or a fight, do you really know how good you are, right?
Yeah.
So being able to be angry at God, because then you ask the real questions and you say the real things. But how can you expect a real answer from God when you're not being real with Him? So I see some of the most productive and healthy outcomes in someone's life when I give them permission to say, like, I don't think you've wrestled through the anger. Like, if you had childhood trauma, like, you need to wrestle through the anger of, like, why didn't you protect me? Why weren't you there? So, like, you give somebody permission to do that. And I think a lot of times people make fear-based decisions, especially as a leader. Like, I don't want them to go down that path, but they go down that path. And the next time you see them, like, they're healthier, they're better, because they got answers that they were too afraid to ask before. Does that make sense? So I love that you said that, because I think it's such an important part. I think you hit on something that I just think is important, there is to be willing to be angry at God and have that conversation. Um, Okay, so now we're in the breakup world. I have a few specific questions that I think are important. I love that you mentioned the bare minimums, because I was going to ask you the non-negotiables, but that's like into the dating. I may tap on that a little bit more here in a second, but like a couple big ones. How did you avoid? No, I feel like we got there.
Yeah.
Okay. Healthy relationships with an ex, if you have to be in proximity. Like, what does that look like? Let's
Yeah.
say you still go to the same church, or you still work at the same place, or whatever it is, you have to be in proximity, or you see them kind of somewhat frequently. Do you try to maintain a friendship? Is that not possible? Or is it just like you got to stick to being cordial? What does that look like?
I don't think the friendship is a good idea immediately, especially because most times, if not all times, at least one person has some level of feelings.
Hmm.
And a lot of times people try to do this incognito friendship where they're like, I'm going to be their friend, but I know that underneath this, I'm going to reattract them by them liking to be around me. And it leads to this really, really common cycle where you start talking, you're friends, but then inevitably the old dynamic kind of shines through the cracks and there's a little bit of flirting on both sides. You latch on to that as so much hope of, oh my gosh, he called me this pet name. That means that there's hope. He loves me again. And then it just builds up as pressure until you're finally like, hey, I know we've been friends, but like, do you see anything going on in the future with us? And then he's like, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to send any mixed signals. Like we agreed to be friends. That's what I thought we were doing. You're super heartbroken again. You distance, then it starts over again. You start talking again
Yeah.
and goes again. People do that for years.
Yeah.
So if you have to be around them, like another good example is kids. If you have
Mm.
kids together, I would say go as close to no contact as possible while keeping your obligations. So no contact in its pure form is you do not talk to each other. You both sides experience the breakup. You're detoxing from the person as if they were a drug. Because in the brain pathways, it's actually exactly the same pathways light up for drugs as people when you're quitting them. It's really interesting. But if you have to be around each other, then just set the boundaries early on of what this relationship's going to look like. So if you're like I need to heal, I need to move on, then tell your partner that. Say, I need some space. I'm trying to heal. I'm trying to put my life back together so we can communicate when it has to do with the kids, like getting our daughter to soccer practice and things like that. But otherwise, I'm going to need some space just while I get through this. Same thing with school. So if you're like working on a project, same thing. You can wave, you can smile, but I'd keep those boundaries in place so that you don't end up in one of those cycles because you really do need to get over it. You actually do need to have space. And even if your goal is like, I want to maximize getting back together, same thing. You both people need to experience what life is like in and out so you can clearly choose which one you want. If there's not the space to identify what it's like without you, then they can't really choose if they want to be with you again. And like with your friend, that's like breaking up again quickly after. I don't really know her story, but that is one thing that's big is the people who get back together and stay together, they usually have 3 to 6 months of no contact, not talking to each other, and then they have changes in one or both of them that makes them different people. So it's not the same dynamic. Like they go to therapy or they read or something like that. And then also they talk about what went wrong before they get back together. They resolve things before starting again. So the
That was
space is
me and
huge.
Josh. That was me and my husband.
Yeah.
We were in our dating relationship for 3.5 years, and we had made a move from our hometown to a new city where we're at today. That move was done hastily. He moved here for a job, and then I quickly followed behind him. We call me the stage 5 clinger, the girl from Wedding Crashers. It's our joke about how I was like, I will find you. And I did. And we move here. We get an apartment together, kind of on my timing, not his. That first year being here, that was like a huge wedge in our relationship. And every time we would go out and party and all of the things, it would come up. And eventually we had the biggest fight that we had ever had. We broke up after that. He moved out. We were basically no contact for 3.5, 4 months. And then we happened to see each other at a mutual friend's wedding. I was planning on going to the wedding anyways. He was not planning on going. But last minute decided he would go. Wasn't sure if he'd see me or not. We saw each other, and very emotional moment. And then the next day we went on what was truly our first official date, because while we had been together the 3 years before that, we met at the bar, and our lifestyle was like we dated because we were really good drinking buddies. And then
Yeah.
we never had an official date. On that date, we talked about the time apart. We talked about why we were fighting so much. Drinking was a huge component. We were both products of alcoholics, and we would escape into our party times. We talked about our inability to talk about our feelings. Like, we addressed all of the things, and then we said, if we're going to make this work, we've got to make changes. And we started doing couples counseling together, which was like 3 sessions of couples counseling. And then the therapist was like, I'd like to see you guys individually. You got daddy issues, you got mommy issues. Over that next 6 months, we started changing things about our lifestyle. Our association began to change. And it was right around the end of that 6 months that I met Paige, and changes continued to happen. And we were engaged like 3 months after I met Paige, and her and Mike started becoming like mentors in our life through a business arena. We were married within a year, and it's really been amazing ever since. And 4 kids later.
Awesome.
But that time frame right after, like that whole, like we had our break, we did have to address things. And we weren't even like healthy people, like at all. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we had no faith, like, but we knew like there was something like that conversation was pretty pivotal. And for us, if we hadn't had that conversation, we would have gotten right back into the same cycle. So I just wanted to add that. That was, I can relate to that. I can say like, I believe that is true and that it works. It's my
That's a
testimony.
beautiful story. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
love it. Yeah, you guys are wild. I think it's interesting. Like, I don't know. I was so scarred that I needed that fresh start. You know what I mean? Like I had
Yeah.
been through so much in my past, and you know, I don't care what anybody says or would say. Like your bare minimums. Like that was like first date conversation with me and my husband.
Yeah.
Like no doubt. Like talked about my relational trauma. Like wanted to know about his past. Talked about like I want kids. Faith is priority to me. Like just flat out. And then we ended up having fun and it was great, but like we just got like I just sat down and got it out of the way. Like this is what I will not tolerate ever again. Like and you know, I think for us it worked. I just think people put that part of the conversation off for too long. So like what does that
Yeah.
like what and when do you suggest and when is that appropriate in dating? Like
Great question.
when is it too far? Like you've gone too long without bringing that up, and I don't think it's ever too soon. That's just me. But like, when do you think like you've gone too far before having the conversation of the bare minimums?
I'd say like date 3. Like date one for me doesn't have to be that. I think it
Yeah.
can be, but the purpose of date 1 is to see, do I want to go on another one?
Yeah.
And that's pretty serious or pretty simple. Like, do I like this person enough that I'd like to spend another hour with them?
Right.
And that is like usually not what we think about. Most people are thinking about how can I impress this person so they want another one with me. But I do think there's a lot more power in thinking I'm learning about this person so that I can decide if I want the next one. And that also will fix a lot of problems with people like not listening. Like a lot of this is a big one. Girls often say like the guy just talked the entire time, didn't ask me anything about myself. It's usually because he's really insecure and just wants you to like him. So he's just trying to talk the whole time. So, but then it backfires and the girl never likes that anyway. So I think that's the first thing. Date 1 is just, do I want another one? And date 2 can kind of be by that. But yeah, date 3, usually, have you guys talked about attachment styles on the podcast before? Like, is the
Um,
audience familiar with that?
I mean, I've floated it into some things just because that's language that I use on a regular
Yeah.
basis. But yeah, you can go ahead and any of that. Yeah.
Okay. I'll do like miniature tiny version just so I can make this point. But there's attachment theory is just a good way to understand how people act in relationships. And there's 4 different categories that people tend to be in. I would be careful that you don't make it into a religion. That's what a lot of people are doing lately on like Instagram and TikTok is being like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so anxious and therefore I'm always this way," or "My partner's so avoidant, therefore they're always going to be this way." It's like I like considering like a blurry map of reality that is really useful as long as you consider it like that. But if you make it into rigid buckets that people are going to be in, it's going to stop making sense. So there's 4 categories people tend to fall in, and these categories are just descriptions of how people tend to react in relationships and around love. And they're just ways that we develop throughout childhood to that were the best ones to survive the environments we grew up in. So they're called secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. And just really quickly, what they look like. Secure is someone who believes they are good enough for love, and also the world is full of love. So they do all the things you would imagine in a healthy relationship. They are comfortable with communication, being vulnerable, distance, closeness, trust, assuming the best of others, all that stuff. Anxious is the next one. They believe they're not good enough for love for some reason. There's a lot of reasons it could happen, but this is the mini version. And the world is full of love, but because I'm not good enough, love is going to be really rare. So if I ever luck into it, I need to hold on to it really, really tight because it's going to get away. So they become more needy, clingy, always asking if things are okay, always thinking the person's going to get away. Avoidant is the opposite of that. They believe I'm good, but love is dangerous. Usually they were hurt in the past. So they have a hard time opening up to others. They'll break relationships off at like the 3 month mark or when you move in together or talk about the future. It'll just feel like ambiguously stressful to them. And then they'll find lots of little justifications why it's not going to work. You're not compatible. And then they'll blow it up. And disorganized is usually pretty difficult upbringings, like more abusive upbringings or where things can't be trusted, alcoholic parents, drug addictions, foster care, and they develop traits of both, anxious and avoidant, where they're totally closed off to relationships, but then as soon as they get one, they cling onto that person like oxygen and can't be without them. Or the opposite. They're all over everyone, but as soon as they get a partner, they stonewall them and shut down and won't talk to them. So big things on this again, just reminder, you're not, if you're like, oh my gosh, I push people away sometimes, and sometimes I'm anxious. That's being a human. So that's where it's a blurry map. That I like to think of it more like climate than weather. So like, what are you most of the time? And if you have little times that you're like the other one, that doesn't mean you're automatically disorganized. Like it rains sometimes in deserts, but that doesn't mean it's a rainforest now. It's still a desert because that's what it is most of the time. Okay, so tangents over. Back on what I was talking about. If you are securely attached, generally what that looks like is I know what I want out of a partner, and I also believe love is abundant. I believe I deserve love. So early, like within the first 3 dates, I'll talk about what I'm looking for because my goal is not to mold myself into what this person will accept. It's to put out what I will accept and see if we match up. And if we don't, then I'll find someone else.
Yeah.
Anxious people are more like, let me mold myself into whatever you want. So those people tend to push it off and never talk about those things and then just build up resentment when the other person doesn't want what they want. And then avoidant people are usually more distant and like not responding to texts as much and getting chased, things like that.
Yeah, I love that. Um, Gosh, I feel the same way. I'm the person that I believe in, personality archetypes, the Enneagram, all of that. But then I'm also like, don't put me in a box, because I think we're meant to evolve. And so if you put me in a box and you expect me to stay there or always behave, in that way, or even it's like, okay, I'm an 8, but I have a 7 wing or a 9 wing. And I'm like, no, I'm a 2. I'm an 8 and a 2. So leave me alone and I don't care what you think, But I just found out from a friend that being a 2, you can be a 2. 8s in their healed version can be a 2. So, anyways, that's a whole tangent, but I agree. It's like you can have this type of attachment style, which I was more of like an anxious attachment style, but like I've evolved as a human
Yeah.
being,
Yeah, you
healed.
can grow too. They
Yeah,
change all the time. So they
right.
get worse or better. You're
Yeah,
kind of not stuck anywhere with them.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about messy breakup stuff real quick, and then I want to move on to dating before we wrap
Okay.
up. Okay, so like this whole world, social media, all that crap, when you're thinking of no contact and you've got all these apps that you're following each other on or communicating on, that means like removal from all of that, correct?
Depends.
Okay.
So
Tell
this
me.
this is where I'm more nuanced. That's what I think kind of makes me unique in the space.
Yeah.
Is there's usually two big camps that are kind of where people are. There's the camp that I watch tons of videos of at the beginning, which is like every ex will come back. They all come back. Send this text and they will love you. Buy this love spell from me and it will guarantee that they will
Mm,
choose you
yeah.
and fall in love with you again. The other camp is every ex is an ex for a reason. Everyone you break up with is a terrible person. They have so many red flags. Never talk to them ever again. Like
Right.
there's tons of fish in the sea. Stop being sad. I like to I think the world is not either of those. Like we have like Danielle got back together and is happy.
Yeah.
You didn't and you're happy. And I think that's more what the realistic version of the world is that most people don't get back together and some do. And that's so I try not to judge which one. So on to answer your question on like removal and stuff. If the person is coming and they're like, I really, really want to try to make this relationship work, you still need to detox from them. You still need to heal. You need to get better. You're not going to get back together and the relationship's not going to last if you don't build a life without them. But also, like blocking and things sends a message. And you
Yeah.
can communicate through that you don't like the person anymore, which you do still. So don't communicate things that aren't true. So I say first, like mute on all the things. However, if you can't, like if it's becoming such an addiction that that's not working, like you're still finding yourself going and searching them out, even though it's not popping up on your feed. One more thing I say to do is you can pick a little window in the day that you're allowed to be as crazy as you want. Like 2 to 3 p.m. You can be a crazy person. Stalk whatever you want. But at 301, you've got to be back in control and wait until your
Yeah.
window tomorrow. If that's not working, then block everywhere. Your healing is above that. It can still work, but if they come back and you're in this super anxious state that you're just like not focusing on your life and you're just like, what does it mean if their following count went up this amount or this
Yeah.
girl liked his thing? That means that he's in love with her and they probably met when they were 4 years old and this has been star-crossed lovers since the beginning. Like if that stuff is happening, then it's not even going to work if they come back because it's
Yeah.
nothing changed. So
Right.
so yeah, blocking, but I usually do it more as a last resort. Unless you just want to move on, block at the get-go.
So let's just say you are kind of more neutral where you get back together, great. You don't get back together, it's not meant to be, but you're wanting to be cordial, but that person is doing some of the blocking, unblocking, add me back, stop. Like they are kind of displaying some of those characteristics of like they can't decide where they're at. How what would you say if you were coaching somebody that was experiencing that?
So this is really similar to a concept called breadcrumbing, where like a lot of times people will not want to get back together. Like if you were to ask them, but they'll text you once every couple weeks and say, "Hey, how are you?" And then you'll talk to them, and then you'll be like, "Does this mean you're changing your mind?" They'll be like, "No, what made you think that?" Like, I'm not sure. I didn't mean to do mixed signals, and then they just disappear, and then they come back and do it again. So yeah, people do block, unblock. If they're blocking and unblocking, that doesn't really matter. Like you're not gonna see it unless you're searching them. So just let them go crazy on their own blocking, unblocking. That's what I'd say on that. If they're following you and unfollowing you all the time, I would accept like the first one and then I just wouldn't accept it anymore. If they are breadcrumbing you like they're texting over and over and over again and it's this pattern, I think of this one like math. So if you have a graph and the x-axis like the horizontal one is time and the y one or the vertical one is progress and getting back together. If you have like a text, this is one big misconception is you think that if someone reaches out to you, they have to say like, I miss you, I'm sorry, I've made all these mistakes, please take me back, or it's not real. I don't believe in that at all.
Yeah.
Most times, people who, even if they have real intentions, they're really afraid they'll get rejected by you. So they just say something dumb. They just say something indirect. They'll ask like, "Hey, do you remember that thing that we saw? Like, what's the pizza place called that we went there?" I've seen that a lot of times. And
Yeah.
then they'll actually like it'll escalate and then they'll meet up and talk about real things and get back together and it's great. So you just shut it down, then I think you're not treating people like people. Like people get shy and nervous and that's okay. That doesn't mean they're not genuine. But
Yeah.
so if there's just one point on the graph, like they just send one thing, um, next, you pay attention. Is the line going up? So is the progress going up over time? That like they text some sort of thing, and then next time you meet up, and next time you talk about something serious. Cool. Let it go. Keep going along with the process. If the line is not going up in progress, so it's a flat line on that graph we described, that you get these random texts over time, you get like two of them or three of them, then I'd reply and be like, hey, I love hearing from you. I am like, but it's hurting me to see this. So, like, if you ever want to talk about making the relationship work or something serious, then let me know. But until then, please don't text me anymore.
Yeah. I love that. I think
And
that's
then
good.
after that, I wouldn't reply to him after
Yeah.
you.
Okay, one more question about the breakup stuff and then moving on. But like, okay, what's the difference, or in your opinion, fine line where you would coach somebody and say, like, okay, you're healthy processing or you're obsessing?
Uh, that's a good question.
Mm.
It would be the percentage of it that's in their control. So at first you're going to be just spiraling about whatever they're doing. And even then, I don't really like you can process what happened in the past, but the general one that looks like obsessing is things that aren't in the relationship. It's hypotheticals about what the ex may be doing now. So they think about like, are they dating other people? Are they doing this or this or this or this? And I usually listen and then offer some sort of like hopeful statement. I also teach there's a process called thinking errors, which is it's taught a lot in like OCD therapy, but it's you basically look at your thought and then you look for tons of common, they're called cognitive distortions, or ways that the thought could be making assumptions that you aren't possible to make, like mind reading, fortune telling, things like that. And then come up with all these other thoughts that with the evidence that you actually have are equally possible. So let's say that a girl sees her ex-boyfriend on a boat and there is equal amount of guys and girls on the boat. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, he's in love. Like he's totally over this. I am the only one suffering. He's going to ride off into the sunset and have the best life ever and have 6 kids. And I'm going to be so sad and never get married ever." That's generally where brains go. So you look and you say, "Okay, I'm mind reading here. Like I don't know what he's thinking. I'm making all that up. I'm fortune telling. I'm making big assumptions." And then after that, after you've poked some holes in your original idea, just come up with other ideas that are also true, equally true to that one, based on the evidence that you have. So it could be like all of them are platonic friends. Um, they are his friends' girlfriends. She likes him, but he doesn't like her. Like there's tons of different things that could be. And then once you've got all those and you've like been a detective and you've thought like what are the thoughts that are equally possible, you're gonna think you're delusional if you think the positive one, but you're actually just being delusional in a negative way because it's not any more true based on what you say. Our brains are just wired to look for negativity to keep us safe. So then you just pick the thought that gives you the most peace and you hold on to that one. But yeah, that's what I usually say. Like if they're obsessing, it's usually not about the relationship, it's about the future. They might have to process and think about and talk about things that they went through in the relationship, and that's okay. But if it's about the future, it's better to shift thoughts towards things you have control over.
So, what about when somebody's thought process is stuck in the past and it's like, I wish I could have done better, or what did I do? Or maybe there wasn't a reason for the breakup, like maybe it blindsided them. And so then they're stuck in this spiral of like, what happened? What did
Yeah.
and there was never the opportunity to find out or talk through it. So they're stuck there. And that's going to obviously keep them from any like
Mhm.
foreseeable future, whether it's with them or with somebody else. What if they are stuck in the past on themselves?
Three things. So first thing, there's a concept called Zeigarnik loops, which this is I think he's like a Harvard scientist, either from 70s or 80s. But he was looking at what took our mental energy and what we spent mental energy on that wasn't productive. And he found that if we ever have unclosed loops in our lives, we put energy towards it. So it could be as simple as if your room is dirty at home, some level of your mental energy is going to be sucked away there. So the biggest example of this is this, like my love life, which a lot of for people that becomes like their life purpose, is unclosed. I have no idea why it's over. What the heck is going on? So, two ways to get through it. The first is learn what you can that you might be able to make educated assumptions that can make the narrative make sense for you. Attachment styles are a great way to begin there. Because if you just had a relationship that was perfect and then all of a sudden 3 months hit and you talked about meeting each other's families and then all of a sudden he got really weird and bailed, That is an extremely common pattern for someone with an avoidant attachment style. So if you can learn what that is, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, like he didn't tell me, but I have an answer. He had an avoidant attachment style. He wasn't ready. That can help some people. If it's still not helping, like you've learned all this stuff, there is like a critical point where people just become internet psychologists and just like become super into learning this now that I'm going to learn everything about avoidant attachment style there is to learn in the entire human knowledge. That can be a trap too. So if you find that you already know everything and you're just repeating stuff, then it's probably something else. So the next thing is look for ways that you can make it make sense in getting you to where you are now. So with medical school, that was a big thing for me. I didn't get into medical school and it didn't make any sense because I got a 97th percentile in the MCAT. I had a 3.9 GPA. I was an anatomy teacher for 2 semesters for nursing students. I started a nonprofit that saved $100,000 of medical. I had a better application than anyone I'd ever heard of, like that I'd known in real life. And then I applied to 50 schools over 2 years and got rejected from every single one. And I also hired an application coach that was going to like teach me how to do it. I spent $5,000 on them. I spent $3,000 each time I applied. And they were on the board of admittance for Johns Hopkins. And they said, with your application and the essays we're going to help you write, you can get into any school you want in the nation. I was like, I don't know if I believe you. I applied to 25 before and got rejected from all of them. And they don't tell you why you get rejected either. They just say no. So, I applied, I apply again 25 times with her helping me get rejected again, all 25. So 50 out of 50. And I had no idea why. And it was just like, okay, that sucks. Like I tried really hard. I did all these things. I don't really know how to improve. So after that, I was just kind of bitter. Like I would go to hospitals sometimes when people were sick or I was sick. I'd see doctors and I get really excited about what they were talking about. And I'd be like, this guy's not like that much smarter than me. Like, what the heck? Like what's wrong with me that I can't get in? I on the test that you're supposed to get in with, I beat 97% of everybody. Like what happened? So like I did all that and I'd always think about like how hard I worked. Like I studied for that test for 7 hours a day for 9 months consistently without missing a day, always. And it wasn't until like probably like a year ago, I was thinking about life and I was talking to my wife Jocelyn and I looked at it and I thought every single thing that I did to prepare for that prepared me for what I do now. So what I really wanted out of medical school was I really like finding people who are in like a crisis situation and then teaching something and making something clear that gives them hope and the ability to carry on forward. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to learn enough about health and I specifically want to be like an eye surgeon. So if they're afraid they're going to like lose their vision, I know how everything works so I can explain it and then they can have hope for the future. And I was like, oh, I do that now. That's really cool. And then I thought, okay, like I taught as an anatomy professor over Zoom because it was COVID. I do that now. And I learned how to be really consistent and self-motivated when I was studying for the MCAT that I could go from not knowing anything to like scoring really high on it. And I have to do that now. I have to teach myself stuff every day. So when I connected all that, all of a sudden, all the regret and unclosed closure that I had about medical school instantly fit into the narrative of my life. And then I didn't feel bad about it anymore. Now I can go to hospitals and be okay. And I'm not like mad. So same thing with relationships is the more things you can pile up on a scale of I gained this from it. I don't know how many it's going to be for you, but you can say like I learned what not to look for. I learned this. I grew this way. The more you can make it make sense, eventually it makes sense enough that you can let go of it, even if the other person doesn't tell you why.
That's awesome. Thank you. I think that's going to be really helpful for some people too.
Yeah, I think those like the closing the loop thing. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that analogy because I mean, I've had to do that so many times in my life for so many different reasons, aside from even just like romantic relationships, like even just friends, friends can ghost you. And then like that
Yeah.
weird, like, what did I do wrong? Like
Yeah.
what, and then if you don't figure out a way, it literally like that's the type of thing like before when I struggled with anxiety so much, like those are the types of things that would like enter my brain at 11 p.m. and keep me awake for, another 3 hours. Like why first of all, why does it always come up at that point? But then it's just because it's that unclosed loop and you're just like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. So like I love that mindset. Well, how has dating world changed? Like, what is the most important change that you've seen in the dating world? And maybe like, it's just like what our parents would say about dating, or what how our parents experience versus today. Like, do you feel like the dating world, like, okay, so dating apps, all of that thing, all of those things are new compared to like
Yeah.
parents, the older generations. Like, obviously the dating world has changed that, but what are bigger changes or other changes that you've noticed? Does that make
I
sense?
think it's yeah, I love learning about this right now. So I think it's completely different
Yeah.
and more of a and this is also with finance. I think it's finance stuff is following the same pattern, is it's becoming more of a winner take all world.
Mm,
So it's like finance is a good analogy. I think that it's easier now than it used to be to start a business from your computer and make millions of dollars.
right.
But the people who are following like the regular path are going to have a lot harder time. That like if you have a normal job, you used to be able to just buy a house from that, and now you can't. And that's way harder. So the average person is going to suffer way more, but like if you learn certain things, you can succeed way higher. And I think
Mm,
dating is the same. So there's statistics right now that the Tinder did a study that said that the top like 10% of males get the attention of the top 80% of the females. So the top 80% of females are going after like 10 guys, and all the other guys are getting nothing. And then
mm.
they'll get like the bottom 20% of the females will get the 90%. So they just get like no options, and then the top get a bajillion options. So that's really hard. And
Is that, what does that speak to? Materialism or?
yeah, I think that's one. I'm gonna stat a couple more things and put it together in a whole picture. But
Okay,
another
perfect.
another stat I've seen is between the ages of 18 to 25, only no, between this 18 to 25, 45% of males have never asked out a woman in public in real life, only on DMs or dating
Did you
apps.
did you just say 45%?
Yeah, have not. So like 55% have talked to a girl
Wow.
and asked her, "Can I have your number?" 45% have never done that in their entire lives, who are 25 years old right now.
That is shocking to me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really.
So I think that it's dismal and sad, but also a huge opportunity. That like
Yeah.
if you do learn how to do things and not follow the common trends, then you get access to so many more options than ever. So another another big thing, this is just another trend to put into this like big pile of things, is there's this belief, it's called hypergamy, and it's an evolutionary biology thing that says that women, and they've tracked it just on what like people tend to be attracted to. Women tend to go for guys who are equal or higher social economic status,
Hmm.
and guys don't tend to care as much because women want stability, safety.
Yeah.
Like if they're going to have babies, they need someone who can take care of them. That's general. There's going to be exceptions, but that's generally how people are. The problem that's going on in society right now is currently double the amount of women go to college as men. 66% of college people are women, and 33% or 34% are men. So when the women graduate, there's two women going for each of those men, but also the men aren't caring if the women go to college. So the men are going for those two women, but also all the girls that didn't go to college. So women are getting less and less options in that area.
Ooh.
Wow. That is so
Okay.
interesting.
Okay.
Do you have more?
Yeah, one more.
Okay.
So
Because I
the
got
last thing,
thoughts.
yeah, the last thing is with dating apps, they work really well for one thing. They're really good at giving you more options than you could potentially get in real life. I actually have two more things. I'll say them fast. There we go. And it's a good thing because like you weren't able to do that before. But it plays into our brain's desire to be efficient in a way that we stop using any other way of finding people. So you can think of it as like if you're building something and you have a certain tool like a screwdriver, and it's such a good screwdriver that you just decide, I'm never going to use a drill or a hammer or a saw ever again. I'm just going to use a screwdriver for everything. All of a sudden, you can't build things very well. So we used to have, you can meet people at work, or you could meet people that are friends of friends, or you can meet people at school, you can meet people at parties, you could meet people just on the street, random people you thought were attractive. And then we had dating apps too. There are all these different tools, but dating apps had become so good at being efficient that the other ones just seem too hard in comparison, so we don't do them. We just do dating
Mm.
apps. So now we miss out on all the good things, the benefits that those other tools had, and we only use one tool, and therefore we can't succeed as easy. Okay. Yeah. That's all the things I had.
I think all of that is just like so fascinating to
Yeah.
me, and it really, we don't have time, and you're not the author of
It's
any
like
of
a
these
different
data
podcast.
sources, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to like talk about some of these things. Like, I won't. I digress.
So to me, like everybody is saying dating has gotten worse, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to view it that way, you absolutely can. But if
Yeah.
you want to view it through the lens of what tools do we have today? What resources do we have today? Let me access those
Yeah.
and be authentic and make sure I maintain my authenticity, then it's actually like it's better. So you could say
Uh-huh.
it's worse, but also like when I look at it, and then obviously I have faith, and I don't want to just down everybody, but like I think a lot of people in the past got, like you said for your story, the thing was you just get married. So a lot of people just got married and then just stayed in marriages forever and ever, because that was just what you do. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily that is better, because how many people kind of look at their life or stay in marriages really, really long term and then have like these late in their life divorces, or just honestly just quietly unhappy because they just never learned about themselves. So they didn't have these tools. So we have these tools in place. Yeah, obviously there's people that abuse it, right? And there's people that play with it like it's a game, but then there's a lot of people that are effectively using these tools to actually meet their partner. So I think it's
Yeah.
cool. Have you ever seen the movie? It's new. It's called The Materialist.
No.
Okay, you need to watch it because
I
it's
haven't seen many since we had a baby. I haven't seen like
yeah,
any of the movies forever because we have to get like a babysitter to see a movie, and it's like,
Well,
yeah.
this
I
is
get
on
that.
streaming services,
oh,
I
it is?
think.
Is
This
it
one
okay?
is.
So it's
It's on my
decode.
list.
Okay, Materialist. I watched it on the plane on the way to Philly.
Oh yeah.
So she's a dating coach.
Okay.
She's a dating app person. So there's like
Okay.
dating. They're
Like
in
she
New York,
teaches
and
how to make like a dating profile on an app. She coaches people through that.
she actually sets up dates. Oh
Or
gosh,
like a
why?
matchmaker.
Yes, she's a matchmaker. That's it. That's
Okay.
exactly it. So she goes over a lot of these stats and she's talking about this, and it's crazy because she's basically saying in every conversation she's having, even if it's a potential match for her, she's going over in her head the person's stats, and
Yeah.
she's thinking logically, and then in the end she ends up with this person that she's actually in love with, but she had logically thought her way out of that relationship. So it's just interesting. I think you would find it really interesting.
I do think that sounds cool.
I think
I
it's
want
on
to. I want to
HBO
say.
Max and Prime Video for anyone
Okay,
that's
sweet.
wondering.
I've got both those. I think that I want to say one more thing before we get off it, like
Yes.
how I think to navigate it. I've got
Yeah.
way more ideas for men than I do for women. I'm sorry. It's just what I've thought of so far. But like the way to view it as an opportunity, if you're a guy specifically, is one, and girl too. One, like view dating apps as a skill to learn.
Hmm.
Like don't just becoming bitter about it and being like, it's all just about like what people look like. That's not fair. Like then you just don't get to use the tool. So like learn how to play the game and make a good profile. There's lots of YouTube videos on it. Second is use the other tools. Nobody is using them. So if you were trying to like get a job and there's like 700 guys who knows how to use a screwdriver and you show up and you know how to use a hammer, then you're going to get hired in like 1 second. So if you're just going and you learn how to ask out girls in person, you have half of your competition has never done it in their lives. You're like
Wow.
immediately so much better. Like it's so if you can do that, girls will get like it's a major advantage. So
Yeah.
like friends, church, running clubs, randomly on the street, you can learn how. It's skills. Um, and then for women, I'm still learning about this. I've just been watching a lot of podcasts to try to figure this out because as I've worked with people too, I do think that women who are in like financially successful positions in their like mid 30s to 40s have a hard time
Hmm.
because sometimes like a lot of guys will be insecure and feel like they can't prove themselves to her because she's successful. Also, I do think a lot of it's that hypergamy thing that she's trying to like not settle for someone and find someone who's makes as much money as her. So the biggest thing I've seen there is really define what you're looking for. And
Hmm.
like, are you just trying to find someone who makes as much as you because it's like sounds cool and you've defined that as settling? Like, or would someone who has all the qualities and would be an amazing husband and father and very kind and support you? Like, if you don't need any more money, does that actually even matter? I'd like have that conversation with yourself just to make sure that you're not cutting out options that you'd actually really enjoy.
Yeah, dude, that's how that movie ends. Yeah, you would like that movie. I think it's so interesting. I think it's so interesting and it's something to think about because like you said, men are coming from the angle of I want to be the protector and the provider, so I don't really necessarily care if she makes as much, less, or a lot of people like, hey, stay home with the kids, you're not bringing in income at all. But then when women go off and do it, it's like they feel like they have to be matched. So it's an interesting. So that's all psychology stuff that I'm so intrigued by all of that. Okay, so let's wrap it up with some fun questions. All
Cool.
right.
This hasn't been fun because
I know
well,
I've,
it's
I
like
love
I've,
fun.
it.
I've had a
Like
horrible
it's
I love
fun,
time.
but also like
it.
there's this box that's been opened
Yeah.
for me now.
Yeah,
I
I know.
know.
I've been out of the game for so long, but I do think it's so interesting because I'm around single people enough that
Yep.
tell me, how difficult it is. So I just think this
Yep.
will be so helpful. But
I do too.
okay, so Love is Blind.
The
What do you,
show?
yes, what do you think about that concept in
I
general?
think it's a terrible concept, but a
Oh
really
yeah.
fun show. I love the show. I don't think it's
I
true whatsoever.
I just
Okay.
got super anxious just for anyone that wants to know. Like my heart just started racing. I had no idea this question was coming. That show freaks me out.
I think
Why?
that like okay, I'll tell you a couple psychological things that make it not work.
Okay.
So there's one called empathic resonance, which it's been proven that if we're in a similar situation to people, we feel like they get us and we're attracted to them. They did a study where they had people on a stable stone bridge and one on like a wooden bridge. And the people on the wooden bridge that were shaking and a little afraid were much more likely to ask each other on dates. So if you put people into this weird situation where they're on TV and it's really cool and they've got this like shiny wall in between them, they fall in love really quick because they're just in the same place. Same thing as if you like both go through a breakup and you really get each other and you trauma bond after that. I think that's just what they're creating with the show. And
Yeah.
you can see by watching the show that it doesn't work because they really connect over simple things that aren't even deep. They're like, "You love to travel? Oh my gosh, I love to travel. We're perfect for each other." It's like everyone in
Right.
the world travel. And then like they go and meet each other and if they are not attracted to each other, their faces immediately drop. Like
Yeah.
Casey was not in the recent season, Casey was not attracted to the guy. And the other guy, I forgot, but he says in the pool, he's like, "Ah, I'm into women who are more fit. She's not usually my cup of tea." I forgot his name. But
I saw that on Instagram. He got
yeah, it's
blasted for that
super
one.
fun to watch, but like it doesn't work. You do need the physical attraction. I
Yeah.
think definitely. I don't think that one's fair. I think men need it more than women need it. I think women are a
Yeah.
lot more gracious and can like see that you're funny and stuff, and it can raise you higher. So men have
Yeah.
kind of a cheat code there. I think men are harsher with that.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, I don't think the show works whatsoever for that. I think they luck out, and it's the exception anytime that it does work.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just like the ones that come outside of it's like the whole experiment portion in the beginning. It's just like it is what it is. It's almost like that was our first date. And it's just the ones that come outside of that first date, which is the whole experiment, and then go into the real world and they actually still have some sort of a foundation of we kind of like each other, and then they're
Yeah.
able to build off of that. Because there's a couple marriages that are
I
still
know.
together and
Yeah. But I think like in my opinion that would have worked anyway. Like you don't
yeah,
need the experiment. I think it's just that they happened to both think each other were physically attractive and they happened to line up in compatibility of
yeah.
communication styles. And then you blame it on, oh, the show really works.
Yeah,
But
I
no.
actually think it comes down to when they actually met each other, they were
Yeah.
genuinely
I think they just luck out and that's
yeah,
would have worked better in real life anyway.
yeah. Okay, so then how often are you sitting talking to somebody and you're thinking in your head and just be honest, like just move on.
Not really ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, ask the question again. What?
Okay, so you're talking to somebody and they've gone through a breakup.
Yeah.
Oh.
You not never you're like
No,
just
I like my job is pretty much I have to practice being empathetic and understanding these people at all times. If I can't do that, then I don't think I could do the job.
So you don't even think to yourself
yeah, to
quietly,
yourself.
like, I'm going to listen, I'm going to be empathetic, of course. I have worked on this, but also, in my opinion, they should be moving on.
Or like you
Yeah,
deserve
like I think
better.
I do think that. Like
Okay.
I
I guess
thought you were
I'm
okay.
understanding it different. Like I
Mhm.
do think this relationship is bad, it's not gonna work. I think that a lot.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but I don't think like you should just move on. Like stop being where you are feeling like
Yeah.
you're feeling.
Yeah. So
You
you're
want
much
to,
more like a you want to help them go through the process because not going through the process is more hurtful.
Yeah, and it's just like if I'm not there, then if I'm not there with them, at least with them to like let's explore every opportunity on how this could work because I know it matters to you so much.
Yeah.
If I'm not at least a little bit there, then I'm not in the place where I can even help them at all. So one quote I like is you can't teach someone to swim while they're drowning.
Yeah.
And that's why all the friend relationship advice and breakup advice that doesn't help.
Mm.
Because they're drowning and then you're like swim. Like you gotta do this. Like stop whatever you're doing and like just do this. No, they're like, I need oxygen. I'm trying to breathe.
Right.
So yeah, they're definitely like if they tell me like there's tons of cheating or like they fight all the time, they're like clearly not compatible, then I do recognize that and I try to like guide. But
Yeah.
like I don't ever be like there's very rarely do I ever be like, there's no chance I will not help you with this. I will not help you even try to raise this chance. Sometimes I am though. Like I've had a couple people, not clients, more people who are like on the discovery call show up and like one recently was this girl dated this guy for like 3 years while he was married and she was a secret that he was working with. And then he divorced his wife. And then she was so excited that it was finally her time to shine. And then he immediately broke up with her too. And then she's like, I never got a chance. Like this didn't happen. But you did. Like
Yeah.
he showed you exactly who he is the whole time. And I think this is just going to hurt you and not going to help you whatsoever. So
Yeah.
I can help you if you want to move on and get past this, but I'm not going to help you get with him because I think it's going to destroy your life. So I'll do
Yeah.
that. If it's like that clear, but if it's like we fought all the time and I could see like if they improved, then I'll help do everything we can, but most of the time in those ones, they get to a point where they're feeling good about their lives that they start to see it too, and then they
Yeah.
end up moving on.
Which is so funny because it's like you're a breakup coach, relationship coach, whatever, like uh, probably all in the surrounding areas around relationships, right? And so like I'm outside of that box and I'm thinking, I you must think and be annoyed and just say like in your mind. But like when I think about like, when I'm teaching people to overcome anxiety because it was such a huge thing for me, like the
Yeah.
last thing I'm thinking in my head is like, oh, just get over it or like just calm down. Like that's the most like because that's what people say all the time, like just take deep breaths, like everything's fine, just relax. And it's like you don't get it. Like you don't get
You
it.
can't help them. It doesn't, you have to
Right.
be there. Like if you're a doctor, like, and everyone who comes in who's like obese and it's really hurting them, you can't just say like, stop eating food. Go to the gym. What the heck are you doing? You're doing it all wrong. Like you know what you should do. You can't help
Yeah.
them if you're like that. Like you have to be with them in it.
Yes. Okay. I got it. I like it. Danielle, any other questions before I wrap up with talking about his book?
No, I was gonna ask about the book, so that's
Okay.
great.
So the X's and No's. It is coming out February 10th, correct?
Correct.
And you can pre-order it, and I want you to tell us about that. Tell us how to do that, and then also just tell us about it. Tell us about how, we've been talking about all the stuff that you're doing right now, the work that you're doing. I love, just honestly, if you're listening to this podcast, that's great. If you want to hop on YouTube and watch it, I think it's great because you can see his face light up and things that he's excited about. The parts of the thing, like you can tell he's learning, he's growing, he's helping people, and this is something he's obviously passionate about, which obviously is the organic lead into now I have a book, and I've lived that out. My own personal testimony. I am healing, I'm overcoming, I'm getting excited about what I'm learning about my healing, and now here's this book that's being birthed from that place. And so I can tell that that's the journey you're on. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited for you. So tell us the X's and O's. What's your elevator pitch, or just no, because that puts you in a box. What would you say if somebody
I can
was
tell
like,
you about
"Tell
it.
me about this?"
So the book it's based on my story, like I told you already. That's how it opens, is going into detail about what happened and how I got into this. But it's also I've coached 2,000 people now, one-on-one. So I've seen a lot of patterns that happen through breakups. A lot. I've seen people get so mad that they drive their car through their ex's house and like lots of crazy stuff.
What?
Yeah, that's the craziest one I've coached through. But the book is based on all those patterns to teach you how to get through a breakup in the healthiest way you can. So it starts out by helping you realize why it's so hard, to validate what you're going through, give you tools to manage anxiety, and then take you on the path either to get back together in a healthy way, like Danielle did, or move on and start dating again so that you don't repeat any of these patterns in the future. It's written as a self-help book, and it's full of stories from my life and then all the clients that I've coached. And yeah, so you can pre-order it. It comes out February 10th because like publishers wanted it to be around Valentine's Day, so that's why we're doing it there, which is good. Most people break up around Valentine's Day, which is the most common time to break up.
Wow.
But
Of course it is.
yeah.
Of course it is.
But I know the hard part about it is I know it's a really timely thing. So it's like I'm dying, I need medicine right now. I'm not gonna wait until
Yeah.
February. So I made a course that goes through a lot of the same things that are in the book that you can have for free if you pre-order the book. So you'll get the course
Wow.
immediately so you can get started through everything. It's a video course. And then as soon as February 10th comes, you get the book and you can use that too.
Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna
Mhm.
add, links to obviously this podcast. So Danielle, you'll know where those go.
I know where those go. That's my role.
They're below, or they're not above us. They're below us.
Yeah,
Um,
YouTube, they're below us. Podcast, you gotta, yeah.
yeah,
You guys that are listening know how to find
yeah,
the
I think
links.
they're below on podcast too, right?
They should
yeah,
be.
yeah,
They
for
should
sure.
be. Yeah.
So yeah, go pre-order it and tell people about it. Like that's the biggest thing for me, is that, he's coming on this podcast sharing, what he's learned, what's become an expertise to him, with us. So, we all know people that have gone through things, are going through things. And so, share his social media pages, help people connect with him. Because I think it would have been helpful to have someone at least give me language around what I was struggling with. And yeah, I mean, when I was on my bed crying to No Air by Jordan Sparks, yeah, it would have been nice to find his social media page and say, okay, this is cool. Because even on your Instagram, like you're given helpful tips, and there's just like little commentary that I just thought was really cool. So follow along with him, follow along with this journey, but get the book when it comes out, pre-order now. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed the conversation. And like I said, I can tell that you're excited about it. And that's going to take you far. So we are fans. I'm a fan,
I'm
and
a fan.
it's going to help. I know this is going to. I have certain people that are on my heart that I know this podcast is going to help. So I appreciate what you're doing. I think it's awesome, and yeah, God has a plan. There's bigger and more coming from this. This is just the beginning for you and your career path here. So, so yeah, we're
Awesome.
fans and we're supporters. So
Thank you.
yeah, awesome.
Bye, everyone.
All
See
right.
ya.